I'm 30 years old and I have no clear-cut career, and I don't even care to say it out loud anymore. I don't care to do it in public. I don't care. I feel like, especially because I'm rebuilding, I feel like everybody hides this part, the hard part. People are quick to show what they people are quick to show what they're good at. People are quick to show that what they've accomplished. And I understand that we're all supposed to act like we've got it together, especially by the age of 30. But I'm not in that circle. A lot of people act like the path is just obvious and all you have to do is execute, but that's not the case. Plus, everybody's path is different. I spent my 20s in foster care and then homelessness and then rebuilding from zero. There was absolutely no career ladder for me to climb in those years. In fact, I was still climbing out of something else entirely. And so, if you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, even 60s, figuring out your path, just know that you're not behind and you're not alone. No matter how alone the silence may feel around you, it makes you feel like you're alone. But the timeline that made you feel late was never built where you started. I want to know from you, what age did you think you'd have it figured out by? Tell me whatever number that was in the comments. Peace and love. I'm 30.
Hold on. So he said something in here that I want to address real quick.
People are quick to show what they. I'm rebuilding. I feel like everybody hides.
There it is. There it is. He said he's rebuilding, right? He's rebuilding. Basically, he ultimately let me know and gave me insight into the fact that obviously he's still not necessarily what he wants to be. It sounds like he was an orphan possibly. So I definitely can empathize with that. But rebuilding. What does rebuilding mean? That's what I want to know. What does rebuilding mean? Because a lot of people, from what I've understood and realized, and even myself at one point, and still sometimes that I have to fight off, a lot of times we're constantly in this process of something that requires decisiveness. We're constantly in a process of something that requires decisiveness. So, what I'm ultimately saying is that we shouldn't be in the process because we should have made a decision. The process should be coming to the decision. And then rebuilding should actually be you on that path. But it should require some decisiveness. And ultimately, I'm just saying you just should know what you're aiming for, what you're going for. So, because people will say that they're rebuilding, I don't know if that's his case. And really, what they'll mean is like, I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm still trying to figure it out. And it's not that difficult to just figure it out. It can be difficult, but ultimately what I'm saying is they'll be still trying to do too many things at once when if you don't have it figured out, then you need to only focus on figuring it out. And you don't pass go or collect $200 until you figure it out. And figure it out, I mean, you need to understand what it is that you're trying to go for and what it is that you ultimately want to do and and get good at. And then from there, you need to commit to it. And once you commit to it, I think that a lot of everything else will pan out accordingly. Y'all, before we get into some of the next clips, if you could like the video, I greatly appreciate it. Only takes a second, and it actually helps out more than you know. And also, if you can hype the video as well, but definitely if you could like. If you're here anyway, you might as well just go ahead and click that like button.
Day in my life as an unemployed 30-year-old. First thing I did was wake up, realized it was only 9, so I went back to sleep. Eventually, I woke up at noon, immediately scrolled on TikTok for 30 minutes, got a good dopamine rush going. Perfect way to start my day. Then I go into the bathroom, have a little toothbrush moment, a little skincare moment, and a little hair care moment. For breakfast, I like to fuel my body, so I eat some pickles and make some coffee. 5 minutes later, I run back to the bathroom, regret drinking that coffee. The rest of the day is me attempting to make content because apparently I'm a content creator now. Then it's time for my nighttime routine. Watch TikToks, YouTube videos, and spend $50 on DoorDash. Day in my life as an unemployed 30-year-old. First thing.
My name is Sierra. I am 30 years old and I feel like I am wasting my life. Let me stop being dramatic. I don't feel like I'm wasting my life. I just feel like there's more that I could be doing with this life. And one of those things is a hobby. I recently went to dinner with my homeboy and his lady, and she asked me what my hobbies were, and I didn't really have nothing to pull out of my hat. So thank you for that, because that reminded me that life is too short and let's just do some shit. So this is gonna be a journey. This could be my first video. This could be my last video. Drop a comment of what I can do. I live in Central Florida, and if someone comments, I'll just do it. My name is Sierra. I am
One of the key indicators of somebody who doesn't have a hobby, or one of the reasons that a lot of people don't have hobbies today, and what'll typically let me know what type of person somebody is, if you don't have a hobby, then that lets me know that this is probably a good chance that you just probably are wasting your life on social media. That's probably what happens. If you wake up one day and you're like, "Oh, I don't have any hobbies. I don't do anything with my extra time." Then that probably means that like you're probably just scrolling and you haven't realized it. You spend most of your time scrolling most likely. And yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of people and a growing population of people that wake up one day and they're 50 years old and 60 years old. And I'm talking about this new generation because a lot of this technology is still relatively new. But there's going to be a large population that's going to wake up one day and be like, oh my gosh, I scrolled my life away. And I'm going to be real too. The corporations have a lot of responsibility as well because that's basically what they're aiming for. These corporations, they study psychology and they want to know how to get all your attention. And they want to make it as seamless and user friendly as possible to where you don't even realize that it happened. And that's basically their goal. They want you to wake up one day and realize you wasted your whole life scrolling. So we all got to be aware of that.
Young man, when I was in my 20s, I prioritized women and relationship over the building of myself. I didn't really plan outside of working a job every day and just kind of doing what I was supposed to do. I really didn't plan anything outside of that. I'm going to be honest with you and telling you that I was having a ball. I was
Mm.
having a ball. I was, dating a lot of women, or I had a lot of success with women around that time. I was in a gym, had a really good physique. So I attracted a lot of women and I had a good time. I was kicking it, hanging out, doing what young men do. And the problem, and how I ended up wasting like well over 30 years of my life is that that's about all that I did, right? I really didn't plan or build anything outside of that. Now, don't get me wrong, young man, when I was in my
Okay. Yeah. And that shows the lack of not necessarily having that vision. I think that's really what a lot of people are lacking, just a plan. Because I'm going to be real. In today's day and age, most people don't have a plan. Over 90% of people don't have a plan. But it's at the point now that things are so volatile, just in the economy and just in the world and in all these markets, to where honestly, what has to evolve now, and as people, we need to actually evolve to having multiple plans. So, what do I mean by that? You need to have financial plans, you need to have career plans. Maybe you're working on a business outside of your career that you're trying to get out off the that you're trying to take off. You need to have a plan for that. If you're married, whatever, you need to have a plan for that. If you're having kids, you need to have a plan for your kids. Otherwise, this world is going to have a plan for your kids. And, and you know, that can go left. You need to have multiple plans, honestly. But yeah, I think that a lot of people, when you wake up like that, it's just realizing you don't have a plan. The sooner you get a plan, the better. I didn't used to have a lot of plans either. I didn't used to be a planner, and now I absolutely am a plan. I start there, but at the same time, when I make a plan, I go in with the understanding that things can evolve and things can shift within that plan. So I'm not going to spend 2 months trying to formulate a plan. No, you can come up with a plan fairly quick. And then from there, you just need to be agile to understand that things within this plan can change, But I really just need to know what am I aiming for? What's the end point at least, right? And so this could look like a lot of things. The guy at the beginning, he said he's rebuilding. Okay. Tell me what's your goal? It could be, well, I want to be making this much. You could start there. Some people just think they have to know what the actual career is or whatever. No, I want to be making this much. What do you want your life to look like? I want to be living like this. And then you can reverse engineer it from there. But you got to put something on on wax. You got to put something out there into the universe to where you at least know have some type of starting point. And then you can start trying to figure it out from there. And I think also too, a lot of people just give up because they think that you need a college degree in order to have something to where you can actually earn a substantial income. And that's also simply not true. And so what a lot of people deal with as well is limiting beliefs. And then they pile on even further. You get 30 and you're feeling like you wasted your life. You still got a lot of life left and you still got a lot of time to still make a lot of things happen. But at some point, you got to get clear and you got to get precise. And like I said, you can just start with simple things and then you can go more granular from there. But you got to start with something.
If you're 30 years old and living at home, you've been out of college for what, 8 years at this point? If in 8 years you haven't been able to build up your portfolio of knowledge and your ability to earn, then I don't know what to say to you. You've clearly wasted those last 8 years, because by 8 years you should have an expertise in something. And that expertise should enable you to generate a decent income. Maybe not rich, but a decent enough income to afford rent, food, a car, and insurance.
If you're in your mid to late 30s and you're at a point in your life, but you're not where you want to be, this video is for you. I'm at that stage in my life. I'm 38 years old and I don't have children. I lost my job a year ago. It's been really, really hard. I have found that recently, a year into this, 13 months actually, I'm just feeling lost. I'm feeling more alone than I've ever felt in my entire life. The life that you thought you were going to live isn't the life that you're living right now. The hopes and the dreams, they're still there, but they feel even more far away because of the situation of being unemployed. Long-term unemployment comes with so many emotions. The emotions that I'm feeling every day, they go from despair to loss of hope, and then the next day it's hopeful and excited and I get to try new things. And those ebbs and flows can be exhausting, both mentally and physically. I don't know what the next steps are for me. I don't know when I'm going to get a job.
Oh, yeah. When it gets to this stage, this is when it gets real dastardly. And what I'm referring to is long term employment. It's been over a year for her, unemployed. And that's why you got to really get after it, because it's going to get to the point to where it's almost like there's no hope left. And then you get little glimmers of hope, like she said. But it sounds like even her little glimmers of hope is when she's actually able to just go do something and whatever. But good luck trying to do something you don't got no income coming in. At this stage, I would imagine you just don't have no income coming in for all this time. This is why you have to try to get after it as much as possible. And you also have to take advantage of just the economy that we live in. And also, you may have to veer off maybe the job that you would prefer. I would imagine if she's gone this long without being able to find another employment, I would argue that she's probably looking for a specific type of job, but you just need to go ahead and get something, especially just to make use of your time, just to get out of the house. That's another thing, man. You stay cooped up in the house with nothing to do, nowhere to go for this long, over a year, man, it'll drive you crazy. And she's 38. She's almost 40. So I can imagine how that's taking a toll on her psychologically as well.
Can be exhausting, both mentally and physically. I don't know what the next steps are for me. I don't know when I'm going to get a job. I don't know what that looks like. But coming on here and starting this page is a way for me to just express the feelings that I don't know where to put the feeling. I don't have the next thing to look forward to. I don't have the basketball game or parents' night or taking my kid to swim class. And I don't even know if I want those things. But the fact that I'm not in that stage of life and the people in my life are, it's hard. And I
Oh
think
my
so many
goodness.
women are experiencing this right.
See, she don't know what she want. And again, didn't I tell you she got a lot of things going on? I told you about the social media aspect. Because obviously, if she's comparing and all this type of stuff, I would imagine, well, of course, she says she's trying to get on TikTok or whatever, but she's also falling victim to the comparison of other people's situation. She says she don't even know if she wants kids, but she's basically kind of jealous and envious of other people with kids doing parent nights and all this type of stuff. Didn't I tell you you got to have a plan and ultimately you got to get clear? So that leads to what? Decisiveness. She's all over the place. Ma'am, do you want kids or not? Because see, if you just get decisive, then the plan can make itself. And then what you really need to do is you need to then commit to that decision. Because some people will just say, okay, this is what I want to do, or this is what I want. But they don't commit to the decision. Commit. Ultimately, the commitment is just, I'm gonna get this outcome, or I'm gonna die trying. Or else I'm gonna die trying. And by die trying, that just means that you're gonna keep chasing after it, coming at it with everything you got. And the worst case scenario is that the clock might strike 12. And by strike 12, I just mean your time might run out. Because every day is not promised. So you might run out of time. But while you was on this earth and while you had time, you was chasing after exactly what you wanted. And I feel like that'll be a fulfilling life. But it's not going to be fulfilling if you don't even know what you're going after and you just waking up every day in a daze and in a state of confusion ultimately. And that's what a lot of people are doing. And so she needs to get clear about what she wants, because she don't even know if she wants kids, but she's jealous of other people with kids. And she's 38. You have to make a decision. And then what you'll find is you'll have peace come upon you. And then you can actually start just going after that thing.
If you're in your 30s and you're still broke, then you just have to completely change everything that you do. Like clearly your career and the jobs that you've had to this point aren't working. And to do the same thing over and over again and expect different results is just stupid. So it's time to learn a new skill. It's time to change careers. It's time to go start a business. Do something different. I mean, I've changed what I've done for a living many times. And honestly, that's going to be the number one trait of people as time goes on, because AI and everything else is changing careers so fast that if you're not willing to adapt, then you might not have anything. You could be in worse shape than you are even now. If you're in your 30s.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You heard the quote before, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. I believe if you ain't changing, you're not trying. And see, if we really got deeper into a lot of these people's situations, I believe what we will find is that a lot of people have completely just stopped in place and are actually paralyzed by confusion and paralyzed by lack of direction. It's like if let's just say you're in the middle and you've got 7 different paths all around your circle and you don't know which path to go. But you do know that some paths can be dangerous. You know that some paths can waste your time. And you know that some paths can lead you ultimately to your own destruction. So what are most people going to do? They're just going to do nothing. But if you do nothing, that's still going to lead to your destruction because your time's going to run out. So you have to make a decision. You have to get some direction. And you have to be okay with changing. Again, like he said, change. If right now you're not where you want to be, what people will do is they'll just start getting down on themselves, and that'll just put them even more into a slump. No, what you've been doing hasn't worked. And you know what's funny? A lot of this stuff is going to come back to internal things as well. Maybe you've been a procrastinator your entire life and you haven't felt like it's that urgent, or like it was bad, or it wasn't it wasn't enough suffering in your mind to where you ultimately made a change. Well, it sounds like that suffering is building up, especially if you hit certain marks in your life. Obviously, the most common is going to be certain age benchmarks to where you start seeing everyone else and you start kind of feeling like you've been the odd one left out. If you start hitting certain age benchmarks and you're still not where you want to be, well, it might be time to actually make those changes. It might be time to make those changes. Maybe for the longest, you've been saying you want to wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning. And maybe you done tried it before a couple times and you just couldn't stick with it. Well, it might be time to finally make that change. And ultimately, also just actually practically, it might be time to make certain changes in your career, whatever, because, or shoot, it could be anything, man. Let's just do the most common thing. A lot of people want to be content creators. Okay. I see some content creators that's been trying to be content creators for half a decade and still nothing has happened. It doesn't work. They might not even be monetized. And it's like, well, you're kind of wasting your time. You're not getting any results. You're not getting what you're going after because you want to turn this into full time or whatever. Well, it's time to make some changes. You might have to change the format that you're trying to do. You might be consistently trying a format that just doesn't work for you or that people just simply aren't interested in. It's time to drop that and try something else. Some people will just continue to stick with the same thing that's already shown that it's not going to reap any results. And at this point, if you're still doing it and it doesn't seem like it's going to lead anywhere, then that ultimately lets you know that it's just vanity at this point. You're just doing it for how it's going to make you feel, because it might make you feel like you're working or you're grinding or, you're a workhorse, but it's vanity and you're not working as hard as you think because, sure, you're physically working. That's called shallow work. You're doing shallow work, but you need to do some deep work. And the deep work is going to be actually focusing and actually thinking, ultimately, getting your wheels spinning on some other things that you can try. Some people think that they're not lazy because they're not physically lazy, but they're lazy thinkers. There's a lot of lazy thinkers out here. Think about how many people just don't want to, they'll go to school and get a degree and physically show up and do everything. But they were lazy from preconception to actually make sure that the thing they were going to school for in the first place was actually going to be something worth its while once they ultimately graduate. So a lot of people, they'll do what, especially something that they've seen a lot of other people do. Sometimes we can do things that may be hard or that may have seemed impossible at one point just because we witnessed a lot of other people do it. Think about those sprinting records. Remember, you the most common example is like the first person who did the 3 minute mile or whatever, and then no one could ever break it. Nobody could ever break that record. And I might be getting the numbers wrong, but you all know what I'm referring to. No one could ever break that 3 minute mile or whatever it was. And then finally, the first person did it. And then all of a sudden, everybody was able to do it. Nobody could beat Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson was unstoppable. And then finally, the first person did it. And now all of a sudden, Mike Tyson's getting beat. Right? So, sure, a lot of people see people get their degree. So then they can go, so then they just feel like they have to get the degree. And they're able to actually hunker down and just get it done. Cool. But you're still a lazy thinker because you're not willing to actually do the prep work. See, a lot of people don't do the prep work. And so a lot of people still don't do the prep work. It's still the most savvy and industrious thinkers of today who will do the prep work. And by prep work, I just mean do the obvious thing initially, because you would also have to take your emotions out of it. Some people just want to go in and just feel like everything's going to work itself out. But even in that case, you're a lazy thinker and you're really just drifting because you're not paying attention, because you don't understand that there's a cognitive dissonance. You don't understand what could actually happen. You're not actually assessing the risks and conducting an analysis and actually getting very tangible so that you can actually predict, and I'm not going to say guarantee, but be able to predict more confidently the outcome ultimately.
So it's Sunday morning, and I woke up early around like 9 o'clock.
The caption says, in my 30s, I can't believe how much time I wasted in my 20s doing nothing.
So it's Sunday morning, and I woke up early around like 9 o'clock. Made my coffee, got dressed, had a little breakfast, and I just pulled up at the coffee shop. And on my way to the coffee shop, I was reminded about how whenever I was younger, I was maybe like in my mid 20s, late 20s, I would always just sleep in. I would sleep in till like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I used to do that. Like wasting all of that time.
I remember that.
Most of the day, because either I had to work or I stayed up too late and I was just making up for it by sleeping all day. But yeah, it's just like, I can't believe I wasted all that time doing nothing. And say like I had a work schedule maybe around like,
Man, I remember that. Let me tell you what I remember. I remember waking up 1 p.m., 2 p.m. sometimes, definitely like 12, just sleeping in, just laying around where you done woke up 3 times and you went right back to sleep just for no reason. You stay asleep and you stay sluggish for so long that you done got 13 hours of sleep and you wake up and you still tired. I remember that. And it's crazy how life works, man. That was a long time ago, but I definitely remember that. I remember just having a lack of discipline. Listen, man, I really built my character from base level. And that just means I can remember all the degeneracy that I used to indulge in. But you know what's crazy? Think of it like a tournament. I used to be real competitive. And so like, you ever seen a tournament? Let's say it's let's say it's a 16-man tournament. I used to always feel bad for the people, like, because let's just say me, I know that I'm the best and I'm the winner. And ultimately I'm the best out of all 16 people. Well, somebody got to go against me first, right? There might be somebody on the whole opposite end of the bracket. And so he's still going to move up, but had he met me first, he would have been cut short from the beginning and nobody would ever know about him. Right? So I ultimately just say that to say, imagine you're the first person to lose at that first level, to lose in the first round. And it's like, dang, you just get left behind. Everybody else keeps moving. You just get left behind. Obviously, I was able to change my habit and I don't wake up late like that anymore. But there are some people who didn't develop fully and ultimately develop out of that. And so they got left behind at that level. And it doesn't matter if you can stay right there making those habitual decisions and choices and having those terrible habits all the way to your 50, 60, 70. You get left behind. Listen, you continue to move up certain levels, there's people who get left behind. And it's going to come down to the actions that you make right now. This could be at your job. You might be like, shoot, I ain't finna work that hard. I ain't about to do this. I ain't about to do that. And then everybody continues to go up in their career. And then you might get left behind. Shoot, you might get fired. And then be like that lady. And she been out of the market for over a year. She's left behind. You think them companies just stopped running altogether? You think the people that she was with and shoulder to shoulder with, you think everybody got fired? No, she got left behind for whatever reason. And so things can happen. It can be unpredictable. But man, if you can help it, you don't want to get left behind at certain things to where people keep moving forward and you still way in the back. And guess what? There's still a lot of opportunities. You could find the most productive person in the world. There's a lot of opportunities where they've been left behind. There was somebody who knew Elon Musk at one point. I know they look at him, they're like, dang, he left me behind. So ultimately, choose what you're comfortable with as far as where you want to be and where you wouldn't feel regret if you got left there. That's what I would say. That's what I would leave this on. Choose what you would want to say, because you don't want to wake up one day and feel regret and be like, dang, I could have been XYZ, because that means you got left behind. Same with the example. Imagine if I'd have kept waking up at 1 p.m., 2 p.m. Then one day you be 40, 50, you be like, dang, I could have used this time XYZ. I could have used this time and did this, did that. Maybe now all of a sudden at 50, you're starting a business and things are actually starting to pan out. And then you start understanding, dang, if I'd have used that time XYZ, I could have got here at this time and I could have been did this. But now I'm still running into all these problems and I'm still having to learn from experience and F up and fail and just to be able to learn how I should moving forward. And they'd be like, man, I could have got all this out the way if I would have been willing to wake up at 5, 6 in the morning. So that's what you have to deal with. And that's what we see in a lot of these cases. And so you gotta isolate and you gotta understand right now, man, if you're not suffering enough to where you reach a pain threshold to ultimately make that change, then I would say you need to accelerate that pain threshold and you need to try to look into the future and think about how the future you would react once they realize if you continue to perpetually continue this behavior, and think about everything that you would miss out on. So that's my opinion right there. A lot of this stuff is easier said than done. I understand there's a lot of stuff going on in this world and a lot of things pulling at us, but ultimately, man, your future and your trajectory is going to be on you. And you are going to look at other people who was right there with you and they were able to get over that hurdle and move to that next level and advance to that next stage in the tournament of life. So I would say, man, you just want to do whatever it takes to make sure that you're also still advancing in the tournament of life, in my opinion. But y'all, we'll leave it there for the day. If you could like the video, I greatly appreciate it. Only takes a second, and it actually helps out more than you know. And also, if you could hype the video. Hype is a new feature that YouTube offers where it helps smaller content creators like myself. And basically, when you hype, it actually pushes us to the extent that it pushes the larger content creators. So you just press the hype button and it shows the points. And since I'm a smaller creator, a smaller channel, we actually get more points per hype. And hype was designed for smaller channels, so that's why. But if you come across a video and you don't see the hype button, then it's probably been over 7 days. And hype usually vanishes after 7 days. So it's usually best practice, if you want to hype, to just go ahead and hype while the iron is hot on a newer video. And also, if you want to become a member of the channel, join buttons on the video. And what becoming a member of the DXU family will come with is you would get badges next to your comments, where it will show people that you are a member whenever you leave a comment, as well as you would get early access to content and exclusive content as well that's not available for other people on YouTube. So again, if you want to become a member, join buttons on the video. But until then, I'll see you in the next video.